The therapeutic scale of colors. Blues, violet, lavender, etc. have a cooling and soothing effect upon the nervous system and upon the blood and bodily organs. Grass greens have a resting and invigorating effect upon the same. Yellow and orange have an inspiring and illuminating effect upon the mental faculties. Reds have an exciting and stimulating effect upon mind and body. This is particularly true of starlets and other bright reds. The protective aura. The Rosicrucian teachers also instruct their pupils in the matter of the creation and maintenance of the protective aura, which is a shelter of soul, mind, and body against evil influences directed against them consciously or unconsciously. This protective aura is an effective armor against all forms of psychic attack and invasion, no matter from whom they may emanate. It affords a simple but very profound, powerful, and effective means of protection against adverse psychic influences, malicious mental magnetism, black magic. And it is also a protection against psychic vampirism, or the draining of magnetic strength. The method of forming the protective aura is very simple. It consists merely of the formation of a mental image accompanied by a demand of the will of yourself as being surrounded by an aura of pure, clear, white light, the symbol and indication of spirit. A little practice will enable you to actually feel the presence and power of this protective aura. The white light is the radiation of spirit, and spirit is master of all things. As a teacher has said, the highest and deepest occult teachings is that the white light must never be used for a purpose of attack or personal gain, but that it may properly be employed by anyone at any time to protect himself or herself against adverse outside psychic influences, no matter by whom exerted. It is the armor of the soul, and may well be employed in such way whenever the need arises. In the explanation given here concerning the aura will be found a key to very interesting phenomena along the lines of personal magnetism, magnetic influence, and personal atmosphere, etc. The 7 cosmic principles. The Rosicrucians teach that there are 7 cosmic principles present and operating throughout the cosmos and extending even to the smallest activities. These 7 cosmic principles are as follows. The principle of correspondence, the principle of law and order, the principle of vibration, the principle of rhythm, the principle of cycles, the principle of polarity, and the principle of sex. The student is now asked to consider each of the above stated cosmic principles in detail. The principle of correspondence. The principle of correspondence manifests in a certain correspondence or analogy or agreement between manifestations of the various planes of activity in the cosmos. It is indicated by the old Hermetic aphorism, as above, so below, as below, so above, and by the arcane axiom, I can't pronounce that, from one, know all. The Rosicrucians and the other ancient occultists hold that the laws governing the nature and activity of the amoeba likewise govern the nature and activity of man and beings higher than man. What is true of matter is true of energy and of mind. The occultist makes a practical application of this universal principle in the direction of studying the unknown by means of the known, with the knowledge that the same laws govern each. Thus, just as the solar system may be known by means of studying the atoms and the molecules, so may the higher planes of being be studied by an examination of the lower planes in manifestation before us. After discovering the operation of certain principles in one thing, we may safely reason by analogy based upon the assumption that these principles exist in other things on a higher plane, and thus discover the nature of the unknown X. Thus the occultist reasons that there is law and order manifest on every plane of being, that there is a principle of vibration manifest on every plane of being, that there is a principle of rhythm manifest on every plane of being, that there is a principle of cycles manifest on every plane of being, that there is a principle of polarity manifest on every plane of being, and that there is a principle of sex manifest on every plane of being. And the further that human investigation is pushed into the unknown, the greater is the proof of the existence of these cosmic principles reasoned out by the ancient occultists upon the fundamental basis of the principle of correspondence. A writer has said of this cosmic principle, "There is always a correspondence between the laws and phenomena of the various planes of life and being. The grasping of this truth gives one the means of solving many a dark paradox, many a hidden secret of nature. There are planes beyond our knowing, but when we apply the principle of correspondence to them, we are able to understand much that otherwise would be unknowable to us. This principle is of universal application and manifestation on the various planes of the material, mental, and spiritual universe. It is an universal law." The ancient Hermeticists considered this principle as one of the most important mental instruments by which man was able to pry aside the obstructions which hid from view the unknown. Its use even tore aside the veil of Isis to the extent that a glimpse of the face of the goddess might be caught. Just as a knowledge of the principles of geometry enables a man to measure distant suns and their movements while seated in an observatory, so a knowledge of the principle of correspondence enables man to reason intelligently from the known to the unknown. Studying the moneron, he understands the archangel. Without going deeply, I don't know what the moneron is, but that's the word, M-O-N-E-R-O-N. Without going deeply into the matter of the application of this particular cosmic principle, we may say that one of the fundamental facts of being discovered by the ancient occultists by the application of the said principle is this: that in everything there is to be found substance or body, motion or active energy, and consciousness or awareness. Therefore, when dealing with planes of being of which at the time they had but little knowledge, the ancient occultists always assumed the existence in everything on the unknown plane of these three great forms of manifestation. And all future esoteric investigation and discovery tended to disclose facts corroborating and sustaining the original assumptions derived by analogy, and the discoveries of modern science have invariably tended in the same direction. It may be interesting to take a hasty glance at the presence of these three forms of manifestation as follows. Substance. The ancient occult teaching that everything has body seems to be fully corroborated by all subsequent investigation, but it must be noted that by substance or body is not necessarily meant what modern science calls matter, for the latter is merely one form or phase of substance or body. Matter, as we know it, has a great range of manifestation, within the limits of which are found the hardest granite or steel or diamond, as well as the finest and most subtle and tenuous gases. The discovery by science of what is called radiant matter, opens out a field to science previously tilled only by the occultists and the metaphysicians. And they're working with that now, that kind of radiant matter. Such matter is really not matter at all, but supermatter, and a higher form of substance or body. But known to the occultists, there are forms of substance or body as much finer and rarer than radiant matter, as the latter is rarer and finer than the granite, steel, or diamond. Even the hypothetical ether of science is gross by comparison with some of the forms and phases of substance or body known to the occultists and alchemists. As a writer has said, the field of matter, as known to science, as compared with the real extent of the principle of substance, is as no more than a hairline drawn across a yardstick. The occult teachings inform us that there are living beings in existence on other planes whose bodies are composed of substance so fine and subtle that the term ethereal is the only one to be even fairly adequate to be employed in connection with them. Remember, the occult teaching is that everything has substance or body, and everything includes all that is manifest. Now, motion or active energy. The ancient occult teaching that everything moves seems to be fully corroborated by all subsequent investigation. Motion, of course, results from the presence and power of active energy, and active energy is found everywhere present and in manifestation. Both the occult teachings and the modern science teach that everything is undergoing constant change, and change is impossible without active energy and motion. Active energy manifests through gravitation, cohesion, chemical affinity, electronic attraction, expansion, contraction, centrifugal and centripetal force, light, heat, magnetism, electricity, etc. And there are much finer forces than those known to the occultists, though not as yet discovered by science. Wherever there is substance, there is motion. Nothing is at absolute rest. Everything moves. From the tiniest electron or atom up to the greatest sun, all is in constant motion. Remember, the occult teachings is that everything moves, and everything includes all that is manifest. And I will get into consciousness, everything is aware, in the next video. This is getting very interesting. I'm enjoying this. I'm reading this for the first time, you know. I've not read this to myself before. But I will add this while I still have a little time on this tape. I see the Rosicrucians as scientists of spiritual matters, and yes, they're very New Age thinkers, and I don't see how anyone could call them people of deceit or, connected with secret societies and stuff like that. It's because they don't understand and they are in ignorance that so many people find fault with doctrines such as these. But if they will give their minds a little uplift and read or listen to someone talk about what they're talking about, they will see and understand that these people are not up to no good. They're up to very much good, and they want to be understood and people to understand things about themselves and about their world and about God and about creation. And all of this is just very good to me, and I'm loving it. Anyway, that's all I have to say.